All right, it's Christmas Eve. Today's a slow day, but we got a project I'm gonna get started on. This here gearbox. We gotta figure out a way to line bore it and bush it, because that shaft, you know, it'll be a lot more obvious. Well, yeah, it's pretty obvious. That can't do that. This side's fine. For some reason, it's just that side. But that's why it's been skipping. So we got to figure out a way to line bore it and bush it, and it'd be nice to be able to like put a grease zerk or something. I don't know. We can get it apart and see if there's a way we can improve it. But that being said, it also lasted, you know, this would be a mid-50s drill, so let's just say 70 odd years, and we're just now having to work on it. So 6 one way, half a dozen to the other, and another. It's only got, I know I keep saying this, I've been gonna buy a different drill for the last 2 years, and we're still running this thing, but it's because I like it. I know it. I mean, I was cutting 20 bushel beans this year planted with this thing, and there was guys cutting 20 bushel beans this year planted with $500,000 bean planters, and it hurts a lot less cutting 20 bushel beans that were planted with a $200 drill than it was planting or cutting 20 bushel beans that were planted with a $500,000 bean planter. So anyhow, I came out here to see what I needed for tools to get this thing off. Looks like I need a 3/4 inch ratchet or socket and a wrench. My chain breaker, maybe. Yeah, probably not, because if I rock this back, I should be able to flick this off the sprocket and loosen that up, and that should come off the sprocket, so I shouldn't need my chain breaker. A pair of pliers, and that looks like it's it, and then it just lifts out of the frame, so this sucker's gonna be heavy. I wish there was a way to keep the birds, well, there is a way to keep the birds out of here. I need to finish doing what I need to do to the floor, but there's always something to work on around here. It just never ends. I got the Mini over here. We're done doing tree lines with it. I got one more tree line I got to work on, but it's going to be a quick, simple. There's a couple limbs that need to come down, and the main thing is there's one tree that needs to come down because it's arched way out over the field, and it's got to be about ready to fall because the last 2 years it just keeps creeping out. But so that'll be the last tree line project. But this is over here because I want to get that burn pile behind the barn taken care of and finish cleaning up that little triangle there so I can get it graded off and keep it mowed. And I want to keep working back here as time allows. I got 2 burn piles back here ready to rock and roll, and more trees to come out. I need to prioritize getting bins up because, and I should drive down there and show you at some point, just south of there where I work and where the elevator is, there is, I've heard 2,200 acres. It's got to be more than that by now because I keep swallowing up ground. If it's not over 3,000 by now, I wouldn't be surprised. It just keeps getting bigger. They keep adding to it. Amazon's putting in a big data center down there. And by, I mean, like, you could stand where we're at when I'm at work and see all the building. It's like, it's right there. There's an Amazon data center going in. There's supposedly a Microsoft data center going in. There's supposed to be an airport going in to service them. I think Amazon is now putting in a warehouse. There was supposed to be a GM battery plant going in. And mind you, this all started within like the last 8 months. It's just, the battery plant I think got canceled though, and I think Amazon bought that property off of GM. Now they're talking about going on the north side. That's all south of where we're at. Now they're talking about going on the north side of where we're at and putting in a large community center and 300 government funded community houses, so we all know how that's going to go. They're going to put these houses up, they're going to turn into slums, and they're going to bring in a bunch of migrants. There's not going to be a single local living in any of them, because, you know, all government housing turns to shit. There is a great fear that within the next 5 to 10 years, that elevator and that Helena location will cease to exist, because it's all going to be swallowed up by all that development. And if that elevator disappears, there's going to be a lot of guys around here that are either going to have to build their own storage, or they're just going to have to quit farming, because, you know, guys always getting on me about putting up bins. It is not uncommon around here for guys with 2,000-3,000 acres to have 0 on farm storage. That's just the way it is. So if that ends up coming to fruition, which it's a scary thought, but it might actually happen, and agriculture's dying a slow death in this area, a slow, painful death in this area, and it feels like I'm fighting a losing battle, and I should probably quit now, but I've come too far to quit now, so I'll just ride it out till there's nothing left, I guess. But the next 5 to 10 years, things are going to change drastically around here, and it's not going to be for the better. So land prices are freaking, I don't want to talk about it, it's too depressing. You got all these, I need to stop talking about it, or I'm going to go off on a freaking rant. So we're going to stop talking about it. I'm going to go grab my tools. We're going to start working on this drill. Ow. Hydraulic coupler right to the shin. That hurt. Did not mean to do that either. Okay, so this out the way. And we gotta get this little cotter pin out of here. Or do I want to go? Yeah, let's take that out of there. Comes off, and that comes off. Spring can't go anywhere. So that's the clutch arm disengaged, and then we need to pull this sprocket off over here. Loosen this sprocket over here. And that should let this chain walk off. Should. If not, it should come off the rest of the way after we rock the gearbox back. Oh, we're good. There's that chain. And then this chain here comes off by loosening the gearbox. Oh, don't tell me that's a heavy nut. You bastards used a heavy nut. that even? Oh, well, that's all that literally is. Okay, don't look. I'm going to use a pair of channel locks for a wrench here. Why won't you? Oh, I see how that works. It's pinned in. Okay. Okay, so we do have to take there's that. We do have to take this bolt all the way out. Whoops. And then that guy's just got a pin that goes in a matching hole in the gearbox, and that's how you tension the main drive chain. And then there's just two more bolts, or one more bolt on either side. Oh, those are through holes, damn it. Okay, one more bolt. They do go, naturally, they do go into the gear case, so those hold your 8090 in. Stop leaking. Why is there a car alarm going off? Okay, this is going to be fun to carry out, but it is loose from the drill. That thing is a hunk of iron. For what it's doing, they could have shaved 10 or 15 or 20 pounds out of it and still been just fine. Holy crap. But we got it. So, run this up to the truck. Figured I'd use this thing so I didn't track the yard all up. But we can run over to Mom and Dad's where I got a decent bench to work on and get it disassembled and cleaned up and see exactly what we need to do to get it sorted out. Alright, so first thing we got to do is get the oil out of it. These gearboxes do not have a drain plug. I'm guessing they just planned on the oil just leaking out and you just kept refilling it. Because there's not a single seal in this thing. It's just literally, it's a controlled leak is how it gets lubricated basically. So, in order to actually drain it, we have to, and these things shouldn't be that tight because I had them off. But in order to get the oil out of it, we gotta take the top cover off. Ah, come on. You were just out a couple months ago. Here we go. I think these screws are going to get replaced with bolts when it goes back in, just so they're easier to get a hold of. This guy just lifts off the top. And there's your shift forks. And that's what the inside of this transmission looks like. So, basically you got your input shaft, it's split in the middle. So this shaft goes to about here, this shaft same thing, and then this shaft goes all the way through to the back. These spur gears mesh with the sun gear, or ring gear, I don't know what you'd call that thing. But different sets of cogs, input, output, and then to reverse the rotation, you go through another set of spur gears here. Actually, I guess these would be bevel gears. These would be spur gears to reverse rotation, and then output shaft. This is a I believe this is a 1-to-1. I think. I can't remember if the lower one's smaller or not. But stupid simple. But the problem we got is that right there. That's allowing enough movement. You don't notice it like on beans, because this gear is further out on here. You don't notice it skipping, but when you get to wheat and you're running closer to the inside, that's when it'll start skipping. Luckily, it didn't hurt any teeth. There's a couple here that are a little scuffed, but luckily like none of the teeth are chipped or broke or anything. So the only damage we've got to fix is whatever we got to do to correct that problem. But I'm gonna get that oil out of there first. Okay, so to disassemble, sorry, actually we'll put you here so I'm not reaching over you. To disassemble, right, we're taking it apart. The input side, pull this pin, which needs replaced. And then this sprocket, which this is for driving the grass seeder. If I remember right, is what that one does. But that comes off, and then that spring, and then the drive sprocket. Clean all this stuff up once it's apart. And then this is your little cog that declutches it, but in order to get that off, we have to, this little pin's got to come out, which in order to get that out, there is a, right here, got to drive that roll pin out, which that's going to come out anyway because that also holds the shaft in. So we need a little punch. It's going to be too big to go through the hole. that is interesting. Okay, I think I figured out what we got to do here. So this thing won't drive out the bottom because there's this little boss bumped out in the housing, and it's hitting on the bottom. But if we pull this shaft here first, which is also held in by another roll pin, that shaft will come out this way. I wonder if this has got to be the first one to go in. Pull that out, pull that out. This thing will slide out this way. Actually, going in doesn't matter because you just drive, but coming out, I wonder if it's got to be the last one. Grab that one, there's nothing in the way. So now, in theory, this shaft, I'm sure once you take it apart the first time, it'll make perfect sense. There's going to be a key on this gear. Oh, that key is cast into that gear. Okay, I see how you're going to work. So, there's a keyway right here that's cut almost the entire length of the shaft, and then it stops short on the end, so obviously the oil can't run out easily. So, we just have to, because the key is broached into that sprocket, it's not a separate key. So we just got to slide this sprocket all the way down, which it's just a wee bit sticky at that part where I got it. There we go. Now, this thing will slide all the way out. Once that sprocket's out of the way, it's got layers like onions and ogres. Okay, so I got this pin out. Couldn't see it because of the grease, but there's a slot in both sides of this clutch. You just got to line the pin up with that, and then you can drive it out, and then this little clutch dog comes off. And then as far as this side goes, once you take the output sprockets off this shaft, then this thing will just slide right out the end. And we're going to leave that assembled as it is so that we know. And then this side, we still need to slide this shaft this way a little to get that pin out. So we need to pull the big gear, which that is held in by two things. First, we take the clutch paw off the front, or engagement paw, whatever you want to call it. And then there's also a set screw, two set screws in here, and looks like that's the one we want. And then I'm guessing that shaft is going to want to pull out the front. Let's just pull these all the way out to eliminate. Oh, that was right there. Looks like the end of that shaft wore a little bit, and in order to fix how far I was going to push it in, somebody shoved a washer in there. Did the job. There we go. Oh, that's how they did it. So you do got to pull those set screws all the way out. They milled a slot in this shaft for the set screws to engage in. So there's that out. And then this will just come out with the big old spring. Like that. Now this will slide in a little bit. We can drive this pin the rest of the way out. And then that. A little bit of a burr raked up there. There we go. And the last thing we have to do is pull the output shaft. Which I am honestly not 100% sure. Hopefully there's enough room out the bottom. You got the little nubbin output shaft. It's basically just held in by that set screw, or not set screw, roll pin. So that has to go out the bottom, and hopefully there's enough room between the bottom of the housing to make that work. Alright, there everything is all disassembled and cleaned up. This, I'm probably going to see if I can find one new old stock. It's already been brazed up once. Whoever did a really nice job, though. Looks like there's at least 2 or 3 passes on it, but it's a little worn. Everything else looks pretty good, in all honesty. There's a little bit of superficial scarring on this gear, which that inner set of teeth was the one I was running on to plant wheat, so that was one we were having issues with. But everything else is not too bad for a 70-year-old drill. This actually is not a washer. This is actually a well, it is a washer. It's a thrust washer that goes in there, and that's what you use. The hole in the center is to allow grease to pass, because this is greasable, because the shaft actually turns inside of this, so you're supposed to grease it. But that's what that's a shim / thrust washer that you use to set gear engagement. When you shove this into those gears, that's how you set your backlash, is taking out or putting in shims. That's actually supposed to be in there. So there's that. This drive, this is the main drive gear. This same thing, really not in too bad a shape. You look at the original surface here and run your finger out, there's really not a whole lot of wear, so that's still serviceable. None of these gears are really in that bad a shape. All the gears in this thing are cast. There's nothing super duper high precision in it. Shafts, this one for sure is gonna need replaced because it's 8 right there, it's 8 right here. If I'm gonna do that one, might as well do all 3. This one's actually in pretty good shape, but it doesn't see any side to side load. It's all the load on this thing is thrust, so there's not really any reason for it to wear. So the guts of this thing, other than the shafts, which those are easy, they appear to just be mild steel 1 1/8 round stock, hot roll probably. So the extent of machining on these would be to take an end mill, run a groove in them. This one gets 3 holes put in it. That one just gets a groove, or no, this one gets a hole put in it, and that one gets 2 holes put in it. So super easy to just, probably an hour and you can make all 3 shafts. This seal is going to need replaced. It's actually not even a seal, it's a rawhide, technically a seal, but it's got a Chicago rawhide number on it. I tried searching it, it comes up, nothing recognizes it, but it's 1 1/8 ID, 1 9/16 OD, 1/4 inch thick. So I gotta look and see if that crosses over to any modern lip seal, hopefully. But the downside, there's enough material hogged out, if you can see. Oh yeah, you can see that step right there is the original parent bore. There's enough material hogged out of this. You have to make the bore so big to go in there and bush it. We are worried that you'll get into that little cutout there and weaken this whole part of the casting. So before we put too much time into building a boring bar to fix this particular hunk of cast iron, I know where there's a boatload of these drills sitting in a junkyard, so I think this weekend we're gonna make a trip and go see if I can find and just buy a complete gearbox, and we can mix and match parts and take the best and make a good gearbox out of 2. So that's the initial plan here. It probably happened from being starved on oil at some point over its many years of service. That's obviously not something that just happened, so hopefully that's not a common issue, but it's not super hard to tell because you can just pop the cover off and reach in there and grab onto the shaft, and if you can shake it, you know it's got a problem. But either need to find one that's in decent shape, or find one that, if it is worn, isn't worn to this extent. And even if we have to bore it, you don't got to take out as much meat, so you don't weaken the casting, because it's, I mean, you pull that around and put it straight up, that's damn near going to be worn through the top of the cast. It could be fixed, it's just not as simple as it looked on paper when we started tearing this thing apart. So that's where we're at. Like, hopefully Sunday, if the weather's not too shitty, we will what's the weather supposed to do Sunday? Is it supposed to be nice or supposed to be crappy? We're sure it's supposed to be warm. Friday, rain. Oh, 50 and raining. Doesn't look like it's going to be a good weekend to do anything outside. Probably not going to be burning brush because it's going to be raining. Probably going to hold off on burning brush till the following weekend. So anyhow, that's probably where we're gonna jump to, is to see if I can find a better casting to work with. So That's about all we can do from this, or at this point. So I guess with that being said, well, that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.